Alright, what's up y'all, it's LakerFan here. As y'all can see by the title of today's video, we're here to rank all the shooting badges in NBA 2K21 Next Gen in tiers F through S. So like always, we're going to start from the bottom, go to the top. I hope y'all enjoy. If you do, free to drop a like, sub if you're new, turn on them noties, all that good stuff. Let's try this vid to 700 likes in the first 24 hours. And if you're new to the series, we've done the other 3 versions of this exact same format with the finishing, playmaking, and defense before this. So if you want to check that out after this video, feel free to check out the whole series if you'd like. Anyway, we are going to get straight into this, so I hope y'all enjoy. We're going to start in the F tier with slippery, off ball, and ice and veins. So first and foremost, very useless badges in my opinion. The only reason you should ever use slippery off ball in the first place was last year, where you had one shooting badge no matter what your build was. So for the inside bigs and stuff like that, it was at least reasonable. You'd be like, well, it's the one shooting badge that I can actually have on that's going to function well for my build because I can't shoot anyway. Now, you either have 0 shooting badges if you can't shoot anyway, and then on top of that, everybody in this game can shoot. So when it comes to the bottom of the list here in the F and the E tier, I'm not going to spend too much time describing these badges because they're all pretty straightforward and all pretty, to be completely honest, useless. So when it comes to slippery off ball, like we were just saying, it's not useful in any sense with your badge points to be spending this on, and there's no builds that have the one shooting badge to where you'll just use it as an inside big anymore. And same goes with ice and veins. It would be one that maybe if you're a pro-am big man, you would just run for the heck of it because there's no other badge that'd be functional for you. Well, again, if you have 0 badges, you have 0 badges. And if you're an inside big, that means you have 0 badges. And obviously, I would not recommend spending any of your badge points on this when it comes to the shooting. So into the E tier, we have anti-freeze and fade haze. So to start us off on the left with the anti-freeze, honestly, this badge could be a whole lot better if it wasn't just condensed into a shooting badge. So all this badge does for you is reduce the likelihood of going cold and losing takeover after taking bad shots, quote unquote. So essentially, it's just in the shooting sense. So if you take like a bad jump shot, I think even at that. Now, if this related to, say, layups or getting the ball stolen from you or getting dunked on and made it so your takeover didn't go away if you have it saved up, because in this year, it's actually beneficial to be saving up your takeover for the dual take, but if you get dunked on or you get a reach-in foul or something like that, then you're going to lose your entire takeover. If this was a non-strictly shooting badge right here, then I think this could actually be pretty fire. But the fact that all it does is just prevent you from going cold for taking bad jump shots, really bad badge in my opinion. And honestly, you could even make the case that it belongs in the F tier. I just put it in the E because it's somewhat functional, but I would not waste my badge points on this regardless. And then look, for fade ace, I'm gonna just put it like this. Post game has a much depreciated value when it comes to 2K21 Next Gen because everybody's pretty much a demigod ISO player that can dunk on people, shoot deep threes, etc., speed boost past people, stuff like that, right? So personally, I feel like fade ace is just not something worth using. Now, what I will say, however, is that this is pretty effective for the sake of how mid-range ties into post-fade. So you don't have to actually upgrade a post-fade rating anymore. You know, it's pretty straightforward. So that is one plus that kind of makes everybody a post scorer by default because they have the mid-range built into their build and they didn't even have to touch the post-fade to become someone who's going to do a post-fade. So on some Kobe stuff, essentially. You're not known as a post scorer, but you can definitely still turn the shoulder and just hit the post-fade at any given moment. Now, I will say I've hit a couple with like 80, 85 mid-range, 86 mid-range, something like that, and I didn't run any like fade ace, difficult shots, anything like that. It's still very capable to be hitting those post fades regardless. Like say you pick up your dribble on a 1v1 court or something like that, you can still turn around, hit the fade, simple as that. Honestly, just the badge itself, I feel like it's pretty depreciated value because nobody's looking to just post fade and post score in this game. And if you are, you're doing yourself a disservice because ISO is just so much more dominant when it comes to the sizing somebody up, contact, dunk on them, shoot wide open threes if they're leaving you like that. Pretty straightforward. So in the D tier, we got tireless shooter, difficult shots, clutch shooter, and sniper. So to start from left to right, tireless shooter, honestly, it's always been a pretty good like staple badge, glue badge, if you will, to where it's never going to be something bad to run, but I feel like it's never really effective. Like it's just kind of going to hide your imperfections as far as like if you're dribbling a ton and you're getting really low on stamina. And then on top of that, you can still shoot with low stamina anyway in this game, in current gen, whatever you want to talk about. I will say in 2K20, it didn't exactly feel like that, but to run tireless shooter still felt like kind of you were wasting your badge points. Either way, my whole point with all this, the reason I have this so low in particular is pretty much we'll talk about the meta of having 2 ISO players instead of just 1. So if you're tired, I'm gonna just put it like this. If you're playing properly on 2K21 Next Gen and it's 2v2 or anything like that, or even 3v3, you should have 2 viable ball handlers at any given moment that you can just swing the rock to somebody and they're gonna go ahead and just run the point guard the exact same way you would. Now, maybe you're a little more skilled and you're playing with people like your IRLs and stuff like that who aren't very good at the game and you're the only good point guard. That's when I would say this badge is understandable to run. But if you're playing with like people that are on your skill level and stuff like that, you could easily just pass them the ball, boom, they can do the exact same thing. Doesn't matter if your stamina's low, because then boom, you're just spotting up. It's easy as that. So now for difficult shots, I want to bring you guys to the description of this right here to explain to you that 2K apparently says this only works for mid-range shots, no matter if it's the hop steps, the spin, step back, stuff like that. Apparently, Circus Threes is what ties into that as far as the 3-point range, and this right here is the mid-range. Now, what I will say as to why this is going to be low and Circus Threes is going to be high is the fact that ISO and just the style of this game, it doesn't relate so much to the whole mid-range game anymore. In 2K21 current gen, it was super pick and roll heavy. People were doing the off dribble fades and stuff like that off the screens and just going straight to the close shot, right? And it was just gonna be fade, 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 fade all day. That is not the case in this game. Mid-range is never going to be a super effective thing when it comes to ISO on 2v2 especially, and even for threes, like just in general, it's going to be pretty like at the top of the key, 3-pointer, and if nothing's there, boom, drive super hard to the paint vertically. It's never going to be any horizontal movement when it comes to ISO. It's all up and down instead of left and right, if you will. So what exactly is my point with that, you might ask? Well, like I just said, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think difficult shots is something you need to run on the 2v2 court unless you're really pick and roll heavy, and if you run with somebody that doesn't have any shooting. But even at that, I still don't feel like it's an effective style to run in general. If you are somebody who just plays with a strict inside, you run a lot of pick and pop, and your popper goes to the mid range or something like that, and you try to always push it to the mid instead of contact dunking. For whatever reason you would do that, I don't know, because contact dunking is super heavy and super dominant in this game. So really, why do anything other than that when it comes to what you do off a screen if it's not shoot a wide open three? That's pretty much how I see it. Now, if they tone down the dunking in this game, I could see difficult shots and mid-range game actually play a little bit of a good like style, if you will. But for now, difficult shots definitely remains in the D tier. Now we have clutch shooter. I'm not gonna lie, if you wanted to, you could move this into the C tier, but when we reveal what's in the C tier, you'll probably agree that this belongs in the D. Anyway, the whole thing about clutch shooter, it only activates at around like 13 to 14 points when your opponent has that on top of that. So not even if you have 13 or 14, like if you're gonna skunk somebody 22-0, right? The final points as far as you having 14 points doesn't activate that way. It has to be your opponent having 13 or 14 points. And just in general, the only time that's ever really relevant, in my opinion, is 3v3, and 3v3 is pretty unplayable in the game right now. And then on top of that, I just, again, don't think this is something you want to spend your badge points on. That's pretty much the case for anything in D tier or lower, because a lot of the C tier, B, A, S, all types of stuff like that are essential badges for anybody in the game. So generally the stuff in the D tier, not going to be too relevant. So now we have Sniper. Sniper, in my opinion, it just is not really worth me talking about in the first place, because I just am not really with the whole shot aiming type thing. So we'll go ahead and show you what the description says. So jump shots taken with the aiming stick will receive a boost when aimed correctly. Now listen, I'm the type of person who doesn't really enjoy when people use the shot stick aiming thing. I really don't think it's a feature that should be in the game. However, I will say, with the fact that the technology now, like in this next gen stuff, doesn't really seem to relate to the Zen and like the, you know, modded controllers and stuff like that too well. I will say there is some respect to be paid to the people who can, you know, use their shot stick aiming and actually play well like that. But personally, I just do not advocate for you guys getting into this lane right here, because you're always going to have criticism and critiques and stuff like that. People are going to question whether or not you're playing legitimately, just because that's what comes with people playing differently. So I'm going to just put it like this. This isn't something that I think you want to get yourself into, but as far as the boost that it gives you, I can't really say that I know, because I haven't really seen too many people running the shot stick aiming or anything like that, but it is what it is. This is one of the badges that I don't really have the best information on for you guys, because it's early in the game, and truth be told, I just don't recommend you ever playing in this style, and I haven't seen anybody play in the style yet. So now in the C tier, we got volume shooter, rhythm shooter, set shooter, and stop and pop. Now these two right here are really questionable in my eyes. I know for a fact that they pretty much function the exact same way, and then rhythm shooter draws a lot of questions as well. So we'll get to all three of these in just a second, and we'll kind of break them all three down at the exact same time, but obviously we're gonna start with volume shooter. So this one's pretty straightforward. I will say the exact specifics on it, I think it's within 1 minute of playing time. So I'll explain that. So the cooldown on volume shooter is pretty much how this badge works. Once you take a jump shot, now it takes 1 minute for you to not shoot again until your boost goes away. And the boost will keep on stacking up the more shots that you have going for you. Now, the thing about this, I feel like with how ISO meta this game is, you're not going to see this badge be too effective, but in the situation that you are somebody who likes to shoot the ball a whole lot, it's going to be very effective in that sense. The boost is actually very nice as far as I've seen, and yes, some of my opinion correlates from 2K21 current gen and 2K20. That is true, yes, some of that is the case, but I will say, volume shooter for the ball hogs out there, it's a very effective badge. But if you're somebody who's going to be dunking a good amount in a game and not taking 4+ 3-pointers or 5+ 3-pointers or just jump shots in general, badge is probably not for you. So now just to remind everybody, the cluster of 3 badges that we still had in the C tier remaining was going to be Rhythm Shooter, Set Shooter, and Stop and Pop. Now I will say, Rhythm Shooter I think is the worst of all the C tier badges. You could maybe make the case that it's a little bit better than Volume Shooter, but anyway, the description on these badges, we're going to go straight over all these. So Rhythm Shooter increases the chance of a made shot after sizing up your opponent with dribble moves. Now I've been told in the Twitter like mentions and replies and stuff like that, and honestly just from what I've seen in the gameplay stuff too, Rhythm Shooter seems to only work after you break somebody's ankles or get an ankle breaker quote unquote accolade to pop up in your top right corner. So just keep that in mind. I will say that devalues the badge a little bit. You would think that it just means if you hit a size up package or anything like that, then boom, you just shoot off of it better. But I don't think that's the case. If somebody disagrees or has factual evidence that that's not the case, go ahead and leave it in the comments and let me know, or even mention me on Twitter and show that the badge is popping up even when nobody's guarding you and you hit a size up. But like I said, from what I've seen and what I've seen on Twitter, I feel like this badge only functions after you break somebody's ankles or get the ankle breaker to pop up. So now to transition into Set Shooter and Stop and Pop, we'll go ahead and show the descriptions and then like make of it what you want. So for Set Shooter, gives a shot boost after standing still before taking a jump shot, and then for Stop and Pop, boost shot rating on standstill 3-pointers after dribbling. So make of that what you want. Honestly, to me, it really says the exact same thing. I mean, shooting after standing still pretty much before taking a jump shot. Shooting after standing still after dribbling pretty much before taking a jump shot. I mean, it really says the same thing to me. Honestly, if you run both these badges on top of that, and then I was thinking like Rhythm Shooter was probably going to be the exact same way. So I was just over here thinking like, well, does that just mean you could literally hit a size up and then just shoot the ball after waiting a little bit, and then boom, you have 3 badges popping up? On top of that, you would still have things like Hot Zone Hunter and Deep Threes activating and Green Machine on top of that. So it's like, I don't know, this really raised a lot of questions with the shooting in this game when it comes to how I viewed it all. But looking back, I think Set Shooter and Stop and Pop are the only 2 that work together, and then Rhythm Shooter is an entirely different thing. Again, feel free to let me know if you have any different opinions and have any different feedback when it comes to this stuff. But as far as my opinion goes and my experience goes, that's how I feel this game functions. So now into the B tier, we got Green Machine, Circus Threes, Catch and Shoot, Deadeye, and Corner Specialist. So pretty much we'll just start with the Catch and Shoot and Corner Specialist because they go pretty much hand in hand. I will say, I do think Corner Specialist is one of the worst badges in this B tier. It's not C tier like range though. I feel like Corner Specialist definitely belongs in the B. However, I will say Catch and Shoot is a significant boost when it comes to the difference between that and Corner Specialist as far as what I've seen. So if you look at the difference between Catch and Shoot and Corner Specialist, at the bottom of each of their descriptions, you can see Catch and Shoot says a significant boost. Corner Specialist says a boost, pretty much. It's at the top right of the description right here if you're not being able to find it on the Corner Specialist. 3-point shots taken along the baseline of the court receive a boost, whether it is off the dribble or off a catch. Now that's the one thing that you will say about Corner Specialist that can function to where you can actually activate it as a ball handler still, and it also does not have to be particular corner threes. It can be corner mid-range shots and anything like that, the short corner. But either way, I do feel like the Catch and Shoot boost is significant from my own experience as well, but it is what it is. Like I said, you can take what you want of the descriptions and you can take what you want of my opinions as well. I personally feel like Catch and Shoot is a much better badge than Corner Specialist, but they both still belong in the B tier. So now let's talk about Green Machine. My personal opinion on Green Machine, it's a pretty overrated badge in most people's opinions, but the reason I feel like it's overrated is because a lot of people find it to be like a fringe A tier badge, and personally I just see it as a B. I kind of put it in the same category as like the Corner Specialist when it comes to the level of B tier. Like, I wouldn't put Green Machine down here with the C tier ones, but I also don't think it belongs anywhere other than this B. So just keep that in mind when I make these lists. It's pretty much ranking these badges against each other rather than always talking about the value of the badge. Like, you can make the case that this doesn't compare to B tier slashing badges or B tier defensive badges or B tier playmaking badges, but it is what it is. I'm ranking these against each other. So the truth be told about Green Machine, I mean, it is what it is. Like, you have to hit literally 2 greens before the thing even starts activating in the first place and helping you as a badge. And then on top of that, I mean, yeah, it's pretty easy to green after that, but you still have to have the user error or user non-error, if you will, to make sure you don't make mistakes. And if you just mistime the shot entirely, boom, now you have to green 2 shots again just for this thing to even work. Now, you're probably asking, well, why is it in the B tier? Because for the skilled players who actually do time their jump shots well every single time, it avoids the RNG of the full whites and just the bad missed shots that you just shouldn't be missing in the first place. So it is what it is. I would say it's a more of a competitive player's badge rather than the casual, but honestly, it's hard to tell the difference when it comes to shooting in this game between a casual and a competitive player. So now we got Circus Threes. I'm not gonna lie, this badge is probably one of the best B tier ones. The reason I have it a little bit lower in this B tier and not the A is it's a very particular playstyle. So it fits the Tycinos of the world and stuff like that, where you're gonna be doing a lot of fading from 3, or you know, spin jumpers and stuff like that from 3, the hop jumpers, etc. It's pretty much the difficult shots of 3-point range, because now, like I said earlier, the difficult shots only correlates to mid-range. So if you're somebody who likes to play like Tycino, we're gonna be doing a lot of hop jumpers and fades, etc. Running both these badges would be pretty fire most likely, but what I will say is, like I said, the game doesn't really relate to a lot of mid-range game when it comes to ISO. I would say Circus Threes is something you can actually do, because I don't know how to explain it to anybody who doesn't understand, but those who do understand what I'm talking about between the whole mid-range and 3-pointer fading and stuff like that, 3-pointer fades and stuff like that are so much easier to activate in the ISO because you can control that. Now, when it comes to the mid-range, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. If you see him running toward the baseline or something like that, or doing a spin jumper, you know exactly where you have to contest him to. Now, when you play too high on the 3-point range and stuff like that, it opens up the drive a whole lot more, so you can't exactly play super high on the spin jumpers and hop jumpers from 3. So just keep that in mind, and same goes for the fading as well. But anyway, my whole point is Circus Threes, super crazy. I'm gonna just put it like that. And now look, I know this is gonna get super confusing because I just revealed like 2 whole tiers and we didn't even talk about Deadeye yet, but we're gonna do this, all right? I wanna draw the comparison and the correlation between Deadeye and Blinders. I feel like it's actually a very evident difference, and you'll probably be wondering, like, when it comes to the description of Blinders, and it's so specific, it sounds like, at least, right? And you're like, well, how could Blinders be so much better than Deadeye? I'm gonna just put it like this. I think Deadeye is more for the heavy contest, like when people are right in your face, and then Blinders is more for the late contest, where you're just like, you shoot the ball and somebody's like literally 4 or 5 feet away from you and you get a 30% contest and you're like, well, what the heck, why? Blinders is the peripheral vision instead of Deadeye, where it's just the straightforward, someone closing out on you and they're pretty close. That's the way I see the difference in these badges. Now, personally, Blinders speaks to more of the competitive side, where obviously this is a very good badge in the sense of it's very easy to get contests from super far away or on your side, etc., stuff like that. Now, I think this does work for when they're straight in front of you, but farther away. Deadeye, I believe, is more of like a right up in your face, if you will, type of Deadeye type badge. All right, so back to the tier list. We'll go ahead and just talk about Deep Threes, then we'll go to Hot Shot and Hot Zone Hunter. We've already talked enough about the Blinders and Deadeye, so we'll just go ahead and move in that order. So, for the Deep Threes, the reason I have this a little bit lower than, say, the S tier, where it probably would belong in previous games, is the fact that pick and roll is a little bit extinct in this game. That's how I feel, personally. Some people have said they disagree. They think pick and roll is still, like, viable thing in the game. Personally, this is how I see it. When the jump shot speeds get fixed and people can run full speed jump shots, whenever that's going to happen, because there's like 50,000 other things in this game that are completely broken. But when that finally does get fixed and the jump shot speeds can be maxed, then I could see pick and roll working a little bit better, because shooting through the tight windows is a little bit more important in that sense, rather than ISO, where if somebody is going to play you low, that's the only time you're going to shoot. If somebody's going to play you high, you're going to try and drive past them. It's pretty straightforward, pretty self-explanatory. So the reason I say that is I don't think you need Deep Threes super high when it comes to ISO, and that's how the meta of this game works, yet at the same time, it's a very effective badge. So just keep that in mind. It is something that I would recommend everybody runs, and pretty much these top 4 ones are something I would recommend everybody runs no matter what anyway, unless you're somebody like me that only has like 5 shooting badges, and in which case you're only going to run Hot Zone Hunter. But again, Deep Threes, for anybody that has like a typical 20 plus shooting badges type player, you're gonna run all 4 of these badges 100%. There's no reason not to, and we'll get straight into that as well. So for Hot Shot, this badge is game changing. Like, you can make the case as one of the best badges in the game. If you have a sharp takeover, which is probably the best one in the game as well, then literally all it takes is like 2 shots, sometimes even 1 if you combine this with the flashy passer or special delivery badge that it's now called. I mean, this badge is crazy. Like, I'm gonna just put it like that. The takeover progress you get when having this badge on is unreal. For those who haven't played next gen, it's essentially like Showtime, but it only gives you takeover. I don't know how to explain it too well, because there's a lot of badges in this game that give you the takeover boost for you just scoring pretty much, and don't give your teammate the takeover boost. But essentially, imagine Flashy Passer and what it does for like a slasher when they try and dunk off it if you're stuck on 2K20 or 2K21 current gen. Like, this badge right here is literally like maxed out takeover in 1 shot, 2 shots maybe sometimes. If it's on Hall of Fame, typically 1. So anyway, my whole point is, super OP badge for literally the only useful takeover in this game, I would say, with the sharp ones, whether it be Limitless or just the catch and shoot, like set shooter, whatever you want to call it. And either way, both those takeovers are tremendously better than every other takeover in the game, in my opinion. That's how I see it. You can still get contact dunks even without slash takeover tremendously, so why even have a slash takeover? That's the way I see it. You pretty much should just run double sharp takeover. Anyway, moving along to Hot Zone Hunter, also one of the best badges in the game, and I would say the most like well-rounded best badge that works for literally every build and every player. Because me personally, I'm gonna run this on gold for the entirety of this game. There's no reason for me to run this any lower. The only reason this badge wouldn't be super effective and one of the best like top tier badges if you don't have hot zones. That's the only time that is gonna be irrelevant. Obviously, this badge is only gonna work if you do have your hot zones. Pretty straightforward. All you gotta do is play My Career. Your My Career hot zones transfer over to the park and the Pro-Am, etc. and stuff like that as well. So just play like 20 plus My Career games and just constantly shoot the ball. You'll be perfectly fine. Like, you are gonna have hot zones for the entirety of the year, 100%. So anyway, that's all for the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new, turn on them noties, all that good stuff. Let's try this 1 to 1K, not 1K, like 700 likes in the first 24 hours. I be forgetting that the views are down in the community a little bit, and hopefully everything gets to where it properly belongs as well. I think that will come with time and just people having the game in general. And let me know your guys' feedback as well. We've talked about this in previous videos, but I just feel like the viewership in 2K might be down, because the game is not very good. That's just how it is. But it does have potential. For those who don't have the next-gen consoles or 2K21 next-gen in general, I'm here to tell you guys that game could be great. It 100% could be great, but it's going to take a little bit of time, and I just hope the developers pay a little bit more attention to this game rather than looking down the road to 2K22 or something like that. Anyway, I don't want to lower anybody's hopes and expectations of this game, but I do want to tell you guys that it could be good, it's just not good right now. And then on top of that, like I said, viewership could be down just because not many people have the game. Let me know your feedback and your opinions on that. I know we've already talked about it, and some people might have already left a comment in previous videos. But anyway, that's all for the video. If you made it to the end of the video, put green in the comments to show your support. You made it all the way through. And like always, feel free to leave your feedback. Let me know what you think of the list. Tell me if you think something in the S tier or the F tier doesn't belong there. I don't see how you could even dispute this F tier in the slightest. But anyway, that's all for the video. Hope y'all enjoyed. None of that. Take it easy, man. Peace.